In the Wake explores themes of inner and outer journeying, cause and effect, reality and our awareness of ourselves and the world around us, and the past reverberating into the present through poems grouped into sections demarcated by different definitions of the word wake. So here's Shenan.
So, as Kelly talked about in that introduction, the poems I'm going to be reading tonight are from that collection of poems that's coming out in September. Does anyone know how to adjust the mic?
Turn the center. Sorry.
No worries, I'm pretty short. Okay, there we go. And I have some really cool business cards that have information about that book, if anyone wants one. Okay, so the first poem I'm going to start with is a poem called No Tide, and it's about finding rhythm in the randomness of the world. It's the grilled cheese face of Jesus, the president in the potato chip. The way we hear exactly what we need to hear, exactly when we need to hear it, or the way, upon learning a new word or old song everyone but us has known for ages, we then find it everywhere, on every page and station, as if we greeted it precisely when we did, because it was to fill our lives completely. The way we can't remember what the world was like before we met, how it looked before we found each face in everything we saw. It's a fleet of paper airplanes being tossed at us, containing folded hints and treasure maps in tangled tongues that intimate, go here, not there, stash your keyring in the right-hand pocket, leave the shower from the left-hand side, slip on the scuffed red shoes. Eat the orange now, not later. You will know you made the choice you needed when you see the poster as the train stalls at the station telling you, your day is looking brighter already. We take the advertisement as a sign because it's better that way. The rain a requisite, the red shoe a divining rod, leading us to water, to sunlight, to a confluence, to where, the further back we look, we were always meant to be. When really it's the way that now and then, abutting points of impact from snowflakes parachuting down and spattering in a puddle, will lock hands and form a Red Rover line of ripples that appear to lap against the curb in concert, morph the stagnant pool into an ocean of primeval cadenced waves, its swelling and receding governed by clocks and turns of tide, an ancient mouth that swallows and expels all things in service of a perfect gravity, a mirage for us to rest upon when there is no lunar pole or polarized magnetic plates conducting surges in and outward like a watery breath, no self-perpetuating current, only tiny sonic booms, amplifying one another, agitating landscapes briefly due to where we fall. So the next two poems I'm going to read are a pair of sonnets, and they came from a series of sonnets that I started writing. It ended up being 3 sonnets long. This is 2 of them. But the sonnets in some way dealt with the themes of sexuality and connection. So the first one of those 2 sonnets is called Your Body Like Apple Wine. For years, we women have been hearing bluesmen singing us the proper motion of our carnal selves. Slim Harpo's searing call to shake your hips, the notion Howlin' Wolf puts forth in rumbling growls to move her body like I move mine, which for years I heard in scrambled vowels as move your body like apple wine. I was never certain how a body imitating apple wine should move, but something I distinguished in those words has grown in me. A rhythm intimating sweetness but belying sharpness, burning on the finish. Bounding forward like a wild hound over tree roots, nesting bruised, fermenting honey crisps, drunk on early fallen fruit. And so this second sonnet is called Totems. There must be some place open we can eat. From that point on, fried fish on soft potato bread will taste like shaking off the sweat of sheets, awash in all the drying silences of 4 a.m. A foam container meal, a silkscreen scarf unraveled from my shoulders, songs played over rainfall at the metro, denim shivering through morning after travel. I don't retire these things like jersey numbers or a recall of a product tainted, exiled from all future context by their place within a momentary skyline, baptized in a foreign sand, but wrap myself in them until they graft to me, contest the line between organic flesh and what's been tacked on by a history of hands. And then in someone's bed or open palm, I'll leave behind a thread that ran my skin when there were no one's eyes but mine. So this fourth poem I'm going to read is called The Line, and it begins with a quote from W.S. Merwin from his poem called Variation on a Theme, and that quote reads, "Homesickness that guides the lovers from somewhere they had loved before they knew they loved it to somewhere they had loved before they saw it." So this is the line. What is the line between homesickness and lovesickness when we're homesick for other people's lives? When we hunger for the places in their stories, feel the throb in our fingers that reach for the particular dirt or overripe fruit that stained their hands, or the particular wood of the bar where they once passed blue nights, blue notes, red hours, long successions of a particular tequila like an infantry march, or the way it steadied or gave under their elbows, or the pillow that might smell like the top of their head did as a child, the dust and spice of them woven into cotton. Feel the sting in our eyes as we scan around us desperately for the view they had at their most lonely, and were in that loneliness entirely themselves, as if our home is in each other, in the particulars of someone whose coordinates and artifacts feel like a place we left long ago without bothering to mark it on a map or take any pictures for a slideshow or photo album. A place that starts out feeling like an emptiness from before we can remember, that pulsates through the core of everything like an aching root within a tooth, and becomes an absence that we carry with us, one that hangs like a mosquito net over every place we go, where the hollower it grows with every mile, the holier it becomes. So this next poem is called After the Bread Is Gone, and it as well begins with a quote, and this time from Samuel Johnson, and the quote is, "The feeling of friendship is like that of being comfortably filled with roast beef. Love is like being enlivened with champagne." So this is After the Bread Is Gone. Love is like being enlivened with champagne, yes. Everything rises. Everything is light and furious, bright and deadly and devil-may-care. Everything is spices you've never tasted and colors you've never plucked from roots growing in your backyard. When it's new, at least. When it settles, it's more like stout. Richer, slower, more opaque. Like a chair pulled up to a well-worn bar with names etched so deep they can't be shaved down without shaving straight through the wood. Or up to a fire, a pleasant, sleepy fever, though one that can be alarming at the touch of a draft from a suddenly open door, waking you. An ale whose body and milky head can be deceivingly light, leaving you wondering at old oaky barley wines and saisons with the funk and tease of springtime tongues rolling. But stout is nourishing after the bread is gone. Resentment is like eating too many red onions that climb acrid up your throat hours later. Sadness is choking on whatever you eat. I am a tomato and you're a sharp knife, and you're a pat of butter and I'm a pan, or a pool of olive oil with cheese scattered like confetti on its surface, and you're a glass of wine that cuts through the fat and calms the burn of a balsamic floating through me. Mostly we're crumbs in each other's pockets, and meeting you? Like muzzling my hand, lunging always towards the breadbasket after swallowing my first pumpernickel roll, still hungering for dishes that hadn't made their way yet to my table, drifting constantly to tear off one more bite of crust. But stout is nourishing after the bread is gone. So the last poem I'm going to read requires some backstory, I guess, or benefits from it. So one interesting fact about me, I guess, if you want to call it interesting, that seems to come up at some point with everybody who knows me in some way, and it's usually because this person discovers me doing this, is that I have one pair of shoelaces. And I don't know how it happened, but all of my other shoelaces wore out except for this one pair. And I've just for years now been switching this one pair of shoelaces between all my shoes. And I never thought much of it until people started commenting on it. So these shoelaces have been with me since 2006, 2007, or something ridiculous like that. And when this fact came up with one person, a friend of mine who is a mutual friend of some people in the room, he suggested that when they finally give out, that I frame them because they've been all over the world with me and they see so many things. And I was thinking about that afterwards, and I was realizing that after all the places these shoelaces have been with me, they would never be happy hanging out in a frame after they die. So I decided to write a poem about it, of course. So this is a poem about my shoelaces, and it's called Laces. And it's also the poem that closes out the book that Kelly mentioned in her introduction, so I thought it was a good one to close with. My clay-caked chords, my fraying friend, I rub you between my forefinger and thumb as I thread you through a different pair of eyes. My single set of safety lines to tie together all my shoes, my loose ends. I can trace my history in you, recall the sound of my own footsteps, with you twisting and curling like paths and rivers snaking over a map that keeps unfolding inch by inch. I can share anything with myself, like a double shot or a double cheeseburger or a one-way ticket. I don't own a pair of cowboy boots, so this morning I'll arrive in Texas with 2 Doc Martens shared between my feet, and between you, my tightly coiled cotton serpents, stitching together the elephant tarsals molded around my heels in comfortable folds. An armored tank upon my toes no spear can pierce. At home anywhere, because home is where you can't be crushed by falling bowling balls, or boulders, or toppling amplifiers in a honky-tonk. Somewhere, there are always twisted legs entwining like tree roots, milky tides of cotton rising, half carafes of Montepulciano left on the table. But you were not made to linger in these places infinitely. We were always meant to be 2 trusted travelers, confederates sheltering each other's rib and bearing one another faithfully, not knowing which town would be the one each of us would call our last. I hope that when I lose you, it will be in a city far from the center of the world, far from soft loves and warm wine, far away from radios playing, a bar at the edge of town, light and heat draining in the indigo hour, where I'll leave a tip and slip away from my socks and leave them by the road. I'll walk barefoot, before morning, ears ringing, backed by low percussion from night insects rubbing legs together as my pink cutlet feet scrape the asphalt, breathing something I share with myself, or someone I'd been, or someone else.